Yay!
Cobbled together out of garbage, and it shouldn't say garbage, it's just all homemade.
Yes. Hey, that's the best, right?
Those are pretty good speakers to say I made them for $6 each. Those don't sound bad.
No.
Watch out, Dr. Bose. Colonel Clips.
Yes.
Make room.
The angel speakers.
Well, last week, of course, we built those neat sound systems.
That was awesome.
And isn't it fun having them on the layout?
It is.
We've actually got 3 different soundtracks. Mm-hmm. This is the party.
Yes, that's the fun one.
Because there's a party going on in the bar across the street over here. And then we've got daytime sounds, too.
Right.
And then, of course, the nighttime sounds.
Which are fun.
Which we started off with. So 3 different soundtracks running up here. And we just select whichever one feels most appropriate. Now, the downside is that these speakers don't look very good.
A little bit utilitarian. I think it looks like an eyeball.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right.
Or a camera shutter.
A camera iris, even better. They sound great.
Yes, they do.
But they're ugly.
They need to be dressed up.
And I thought you could do that.
Yes.
And even stranger looking than the speakers is the player.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I did buy an enclosure to put this in, and so I thought I'll go ahead and mount all of the electronics in the little plastic box that I bought for this. But then I want you to dress up both the speaker and this little plastic box that I bought.
Oh boy, roll out the computer and printer.
And it's got the 3 buttons to launch the 3 different sounds. Now, we have jukeboxes.
We sure do.
We love jukeboxes. Mm-hmm. And so you were saying you can make them look like jukeboxes?
I'm going to try.
Well, we certainly have a prototype to use for inspiration.
Yes, we do. Well, I have a whole system that I do on the computer, and it needs a printer, but I just find stuff on the internet.
And then just print it out.
I print it out and have to size it, and I've been good at doing that because I did that for years. But just try to figure out the size and then print it and cut it out, and you have a thing.
That'll look great.
Yes. And that's how I did this one. This is my little library, and a lot of this is extra parts left over from other projects, but I hate to throw things away. And I wanted to build a little bookcase, and that's how it all started. Each little book is printed off from a book on the internet. I found I could just Google book covers of books and print them off the size I want, and then make the pages and fold the little cover around the pages, and I have a little book. So this is what I had in mind, was to go on the internet, find one of these speakers, and print it off.
Well, and we also have a couple hanging on the wall.
We do. They're readily available, but they know what they want for them. So I just print these things off from the internet. I go on to a place like Google, and I look up Star speakers, Wurlitzer speakers from the 50s, and just print them off. And then, of course, I adjust them for size while I'm printing them. Sometimes I have to try several times. But my goal was to get the center part as close to that as I could. So I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
So the next thing I do is I cut this little guy out. And I use an X-Acto knife, or a pair of scissors works fine too. But I just begin to cut these little parts out. Like so. But one of the things I've discovered with this, and I'm going to have to do this before I go too much farther, is because this is just paper, it's kind of thin, I will either print it next time onto cardstock or just glue it onto some cardstock. So I'll get some cardstock out. Okay, so I find that when you want to glue, paper onto cardstock, these little glue sticks are so much better. They, working years in elementary education, you learn that glue sticks can be a very good friend when it comes to gluing something to paper to paper, or cardstock.
Well, I've had really bad luck with that over the years.
I had good luck because some of the kids would actually glue their lips with it. And, hey, I wasn't going to stop them.
Well, I'd never used a glue stick, and a lot of the glues will bubble up the paper.
Right, and that's why I like these type of glue sticks because they just do a good job, and there's no lumps, bumps, or hits or runs.
Yep, way better.
Check it out.
Nice.
Wait just a few minutes, and then I can just actually go in there and start cutting away. And again, I'm really careful to always try to keep my fingers out of the way when I'm cutting with an X-Acto knife. And if you cut yourself with the X-Acto knife, crazy glue. It glues it back together. It's a little cheaper than running to the emergency room for stitches.
And that's why they call it crazy.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's why I'm crazy. The original do-it-yourselfer, that's me. Okay, so I have this little guy cut out now, including the center because the sound will have to come out. Now, you might wonder why I've made two of these, and I plan on using both. But this one is to create the little spikes, the little peaks. And so it has to be a little bit bigger so that when you pinch it together, it fits that.
Got it.
So I just, again, get my X-Acto knife out, cut these guys just one by one, again, being really careful. This one I won't put on cardstock. And just kind of follow the lines like this. And you can kind of see there's a little line right there. So that's what I'm going to attempt to fold this guy right on that line. Which is sometimes easier said than done. Kind of fold it. And because it is printed off the computer, there's a little discrepancy there. So I just come in with my little trusty scissors and just kind of trim that little piece off. And then unfold it, and that gives me my shape that I need, which I will glue onto this guy right here with the corresponding colors. Right there. And you can see it's pretty much a good fit. So I'm going to glue it.
Sweet.
So that, what I'm going to do, because I've got this ginormous bottle of glue, that's the glue all right there. So I'm going to do basically what they taught us to do in when I was in elementary school. I'm just going to get myself a little piece of my cardstock. We use construction paper. And of course we had paste. We didn't have this kind of glue in elementary school.
I was always the kid that ate the paste.
Yeah, it was tasty. It smelled good.
It was like wheat and stuff. It was yummy.
Oh, ours wasn't. I don't.
They said nutritious.
They said ours was horse hooves.
Ugh.
And so I'm just not sure what it was, and that's probably to keep us from eating it.
Well, they told us that the reason this is Elmer's glue is because it's made from Elmer.
That would be my
his hooves, and it's like.
Well, that's what they tell us it was horse hooves.
My childhood.
Yeah. Well, my dad never had to put his name. He hated his first name. His first name was Elmer, and he hated it. But my mom and dad each had their own glue, so my dad never had to write his name on his glue, but my mom had put her name on her glue.
And they've dropped it now, but there used to be Elsie.
Elsie, and wasn't she?
Elsie and Elmer, yeah.
She sold dairy products.
Yeah, hers was the dairy products, and his was the glue made out of dead hooves or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's made of. Don't really want to know. Don't plan on eating it.
Let's not ask.
Right, don't ask.
Some
don't
stuff
tell.
better unsaid.
Yep. So I kind of glue these on here. And of course they'll have to set up and dry really well before you do much more. But just to give it a little bit of a 3D look.
Nice.
And that will have to dry really, really well. And I'll go around and do all of these little points with their corresponding colors. Okay, so once I have my little triangles all in place, you can see that they're there. And I just, of course, use regular school glue onto a little square using an applicator. However, if you've got the regular kind of glue with the spout like this, which I don't want to use that one, you could probably just put a thin bead but I have this big wide one. Somehow they Home Depot version. Anyway, I've got them all glued on, and what I do is I take the thin crazy glue and just carefully apply it to each little point, like so, and I use these little bottles, be really careful, and another little stick applicator, and make sure it's applied all over each little point. Don't touch it, be really careful, you don't want to glue yourself to your project, and then just let it sit and dry. But what it does is this crazy glue makes this paper not only go hard, but it takes on a shine, like it's made out of the plastic that those speakers were made out of. Okay, because these little guys are made out of cardstock paper, if you're not careful, the paper edge will show. It's white, and on a black speaker, it might not look so well. So I've got my silver colored pen. It's pretty close to actual silver, bought at Walmart. And I'm just taking this and carefully outlining the edges of the speakers to give it a nice chrome look. And of course, that's one of the reasons I like to use the crazy glue on it, because it makes it hard like plastic, but it also creates a smooth surface for this to glide on without it soaking in like it would with paper, just plain paper. And the crazy glue doesn't seem to bother the printer ink on the printed paper. It seems to be just fine with that. So again, just carefully outlining all of my edges so that they don't come out looking like paper. And these things are pretty easy and cheap to make, so if I do mess up, you can just make another one, no big deal. Print off several. But it gives it a real sparkly 50s look. So what I'm going to do now is take this two-sided sticky tape. I mean, that stuff sticks till kingdom come.
Well, that's that brand we found.
Fast Cap.
Fast
Ooh,
Cap.
Yeah.
Because most of that stuff is junk, but this Fast Cap is the real deal.
Oh man, it's like the crazy glue. It's not that difficult to glue yourself to your work.
I'll put a link in the description.
Right. So I'm just going to carefully put some tape on these guys, like such. Being really careful, of course, not to try to cut in. I mean, it sticks well enough, my scissors stick to it. But I want these to stick tight to the speakers because they might buzz if we don't. And so kind of like this. Well, there goes the whole roll.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have my legs stuck to the wall, stuck to my work, stuck to my shoe. Get back here. So now I'm just cutting the tape off, attempting to. Like I say, this stuff sticks to kingdom come. I'll give it that much. I just work myself around the star. I get to do this twice, actually. You'll see why here in a minute. I came up with this idea just looking at the speakers we have out there with the jukebox, but I thought, we're making jukeboxes. They've got to have these little star speakers. But you know me, I'm not going to spend money unless I have to, and I like to be innovative. So
it's funner.
It is. I like to come up with ideas because they're unique. You're not going to find these are not going to be available in any store.
Well, anyone can go buy a Ferrari, but only Enzo can build one.
Right.
So there it is.
I'll change my name to Enzo or Wurlitzer. Okay, so now I have the tape applied to the back of my little speaker star and to my fingers. There we go. So there's that. Now what my plan is to carefully remove the tape, and I'm always going through things. I order stuff on eBay and I get jewelry and things, and sometimes the sellers are nice and they put them in these little cute bags and that. I won't use the bag again, but I certainly can use the material in the bag. And I thought this was kind of pretty. That might work. You know, I come up with this idea. But this side really looks like the speaker cloth that those were made out of. So I just turned it over and decided to use that.
That's perfect.
So now I'm going to carefully pull this tape off. It's kind of a trick to get this off. The sticky needs to be left behind, but it's just like a little thin film too, so it's a trick. It wants to pull back off sometimes and stick to fingers and do exactly what it's not supposed to do. Usually you can kind of feel when the backing is actually coming off. So now I've got just the tape, a little detritus in there, and I'm going to carefully position this because I want to be able to save some of this for future use. So I just carefully piece that together and stretch it pretty tight. And just put the star onto the fabric.
Nice.
So now I'm going to cut this out the same way. I'm going to get my X-Acto knife. And again, being really careful not to cut fingers. Start working my way around the star because the grill cloth has to be tight. And there we have the completed star with the speaker cloth inside.
Beautiful.
Okay, so now I'm applying the tape that will hold it to the speaker. Now I have to be really careful not to put the tape where the actual speaker will sit. It could distort the sound or muffle the sound. So I'm just applying it to the little spikes.
Yeah, we tested this cloth and acoustically it's transparent.
Right,
So it
it's
goes
really
right through it.
thin. It's just like plastic. It probably is kind of a nylon mesh with plastic,
I
so
was
that's
concerned
good.
it would mute the sound or
Right,
something.
if
No,
it's very heavy,
it's
it would.
very acoustically transparent. It
But
sounds great.
You have to be so careful when you're using anything like tape. Make sure it's tight because we don't want it to buzz or vibrate either. So I'm just putting it on the little pointy parts and not on this part here. So turn it over, and again with my very sharp X-Acto knife, repeat the same process again for each little point, trimming away the excess.
Well, there they are.
There they are.
I love the little red jewels too.
Oh, I didn't want the screws to show.
Well, now we need to move on to this little guy here.
Oh, what a challenge.
But it's working. It's playing through the speakers, and the grill cloth doesn't alter the sound in any way.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a darn good thing. Actually, they sound really good.
I was thinking about doing a whole jukebox front for this guy.
That'd be neat.
Yes, let's get on the internet and see what we can find.
Because there's so many really neat light up jukeboxes.
This is one of my favorite jukeboxes, so I picked this one.
I love, this is the Wurlitzer Peacock.
Oh, I know. Isn't that neat?
Oh man, these things are incredible. That's definitely my favorite jukebox of all time, the Wurlitzer Peacock. Now this is actually a reproduction Peacock.
Right, but it makes a good front for our jukebox.
Well, it's got the reproduction uses CDs, and it's got that big panel up there that holds the compact discs.
Right, it's going to hold our compact buttons.
So that'll be buttons instead of compact discs. But that by using the reproduction unit, then we got a place to put our buttons.
So in order to make this look less like a sticker stuck to the front of something, I like to make it 3D. And so I cut out each of the parts, gluing a piece of the picture that I printed off the internet onto this cardstock. This one I decided to cut out the grill front with an X-Acto knife and file off the burrs and such to put the grill cloth behind it to make it even look more realistic.
Wow.
There it is.
And it's my favorite jukebox. It's
right.
Wurlitzer peacock.
Well, it's also got wood grain now. Since I never throw anything away, I had some really thin veneer wood grain in my box from another kit. I decided to apply that on there to make it look even more realistic.
I love the little brass pieces too.
Right, they're just jewelry bead caps. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the little gold.
And all this is carved out too. That's got the speaker mesh in it.
The speakers down here.
It all matches.
Wurlitzer wall minis, which would have been the proper speaker
Right.
for this particular jukebox.
There you go.
So let's test it.
Right.
So green button is the daytime sounds, and they'll just play until I push the green button a second time. That shuts them off. And then yellow button, that's the nighttime sounds.
Oh, cool.
And then that will just play again until I push the button again. Now the red button is the party.
Oh, fun.
And it won't shut off. Once I hit the red button, it has to play the whole party.
Parties never want to shut off.
Just that's the file type I used. So it'll just play for several minutes, the whole party with the music and everything. Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, please pop over to the channel.
Yes.
And if you're not a subscriber, you can click on the blue button coming up right now. You ready for it? Right there.
There it is.
The blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring.
Oh, I hope not.
And I hope you found it informative.
Yes.
And we will see you here on Tuesday. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.